My name is Arlene Dolores Zimberg. I was born November 13th, 1930.
How did you meet Uncle Ray?
It's a long story. Our parents were very good friends,
Okay.
but I did not know him because he was in service. He was in the Marine, and I didn't know him until he came home. When he came home, I was 15.
15 at the time? What? How old was he when he got back?
He was 20. And then we started seeing each other. It was nothing serious.
What was your first date like?
What was my first date
Yeah,
like?
with Ray. Do you remember?
I don't know. Probably to a baseball game or some kind of a sports thing.
How romantic.
How romantic, right. And it hasn't changed because we still are both sports fans.
How long were you two dating for before things started to get serious?
Probably about a year, year and a half.
What was your first encounter with breast cancer? Did you have a friend or a relative who you knew who had it, or?
My oldest sister, she got breast cancer. Well, she was like 45. It was really, that went through her whole body. It ended up in her spine. So she passed away, I think, within 6 months after.
Was there any history of that sort of disease in your family?
Well, my mother had bladder cancer, but
it's hard
they
to trace.
treated that and it was not a problem.
Okay.
She was a diabetic and she passed away. She had a diabetic coma. She went into a diabetic coma. But the cancer was not her demise. My brother has leukemia. He's had that for, I would say, like 25 years, and was in and out of remission.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a year older than I am, 13 months older, and he's still doing okay.
At what age were you first diagnosed with breast cancer?
I was diagnosed in 1998, so I must have been 68.
68. Did you have any first thoughts after you were first diagnosed?
When I was first diagnosed, of course, it hit like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
And I went to the oncologist, and, well, actually, first a surgeon, and he said that they could do a lumpectomy. A lumpectomy, they just take out one little whatever it is.
The hardest part about living with breast cancer is it was like the chemotherapy, losing your hair.
Well, I think the chemo was harder than the radiation. The radiation was easier than chemo. It was, being that I had, there was no follow. I couldn't take the follow-up medication.
Was it just like draining your energy and making you?
No, because of my receptors, they wouldn't accept.
Okay.
So that went pretty good. I went through that and everything was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then my younger sister, came down with breast cancer, like maybe 2 years later. And then 8 years later, 2006, diagnosed with on the same breast, they found that I had another tumor.
You were in remission for a little bit from the...
Yeah, like 5 years. Well, 6 years? Actually, they say after 5 years you're scot-free. Well, this was 8 years. 8 years later, it was devastating. But you have to be strong and you have to think positive. And then they said I needed radiation. I didn't have to have chemo, radiation.
What was it like when you found out you were diagnosed for a second time? That was frustrating?
Yeah, why me? The results came back that it is not hereditary. They were not the genes. Mm-hmm. So it could very well have been environmental.
Wow.
We all were raised in the same family, and 4 out of 6 came down with some type of cancer. Mm-hmm. So, but it wasn't in our genes.
Was the treatment process more or less difficult than it was the first time? Did you at all feel, jaded towards life, like you just said? Like, why me?
Well,
Or...
I didn't have to have chemo,
Okay.
which was a relief, because I thought that was much more difficult than radiation. And I did go through the radiation, and the radiation went okay. It was like I had 32 treatments. We thought it was a genetic thing, being that we were both from European Ashkenazi Jews, which is very prevalent, having cancer. And when we found out that it was not a genetic thing, that was a relief.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that my children and grandchildren, this was the important thing, not for me or my sister or whatever, it was for their children, because we already had it, but it's the next generation that they worry about.
What was Uncle Ray's supporting role while all this was taking place? Him being the macho Marine.
He was good. He was very, very supportive. He was very positive. He just knew that everything was going to be fine. But again, everybody was supportive. They were all good. When you go for treatment, you see the same people all the time. It's your appointments, when you're going through this. But I really never kept in contact with the people that were going through the same thing. Every case is different. And I felt lucky that I didn't have the lymph nodes where everything was good. I didn't have to have any trouble with that. I didn't have the swelling that some people have. So it was easy for me. It was easier than some people have it.
So it's just that seeing other people kind of with
more difficult
circumstance
made me feel more fortunate.
And obviously Uncle Ray too.
Yeah.
Made things a little better whenever he could.
He was amazing. I mean, if ever I felt down, which I didn't, I had kind of a positive attitude most of the time, but he did too. He was good. And as far as, he wasn't demanding as far as meals and, needing, he was good about that.
He's a simple kind of man.
Yeah, right.
How long has it?
It was 2006. So
2006 was when you started remission? Or?
When I had the mastectomy.
Okay.
So that's 6 years.
Yeah. Still pretty sharp.
Yeah.
So do you believe that now you're a two-time cancer survivor, that this entire experience has made you a stronger person, both in, say, decision making and with your relationships with people?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. No, I feel very positive. Hopefully, the man upstairs, Hashem, is looking over us, and everything's going to be good.
If you could tell people, specifically women who have been recently diagnosed or who are currently undergoing the chemo and radiation treatment process to rid themselves of breast cancer and other sorts of cancer, what would you say to them to help them get through these turbulent times that they face?
I would say follow your doctor's advice. You have to have faith in your doctors. That's important. If you don't have confidence in your doctor, you have to change. I mean, that's the important thing. I felt very fortunate, mostly because I had somebody looking over my shoulder. Remain positive. Do what you have to do. After I finished with all my treatment, they say exercise is important, diet is important, and I think I did. Try to do the right thing, and that's the important thing.
Did your doctor ever recommend to laugh often?
To laugh?
Often.
Oh yeah, laughing is the best medicine.
Yeah. What do you think the importance of breast cancer awareness is, and how far do you think it's come over the past few decades?
More out in the open. There's more There's more studies.
And people are more supportive.
I think so.
Last question
Okay.
is from me to you, and it's that you know I love you, right? I do, with all my heart. I do love you very much.
Thank you. I love you too.
And I'm so happy and grateful that you are a part not only of this interview but a part of my life.
Thank you.
And also you've done a really spot on job.
We're fortunate to have your family here with us. Otherwise, we have nobody.
Well, we're blessed to be here. Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you. It was an easy interview, but I appreciate you.